Hi, I'm Josh Cadillac, and welcome to my podcast, Know Your Shit. I've been blessed to see great success, as well as seeing the bottom up close and personal in 2008. And if there's one lesson I've learned, is that if you want to have success and differentiate yourself from everyone else out there, you need to know your shit. As a successful real estate and crypto investor and an educator, it drives me insane that people do not immerse themselves in their craft. Everyone is so busy advertising and testing new sales techniques, they forget the most important thing, the product. Here I want to talk to the folks that got this right, the most successful people in the world in every industry. Bring them to you and find out what they learned in their business that made it great. When you listen to my podcast, you will know for sure that the topics and experts we have on have one thing in common. They know their shit. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Know Your Shit podcast, where our knowledge and pride in what we do drives us to be excellent. My name is Josh Cadillac, and I'll be in the driver's seat for today's show as we strive to learn how to stop doing deals and start closing for life. We have a great show for you today, and I have a great guest for you, Miss Melanie McLane. Melanie, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It's fun to be here.
It is 100% my pleasure to hang out with you and spend a little bit of time. So, Melanie, why don't you tell our listeners what it is that you do?
Well, I have been a broker, appraiser, and educator all of my adult life.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm still a broker, educator, and appraiser, and I still write.
Love it. So you found it, you love it, and you stuck with it.
Exactly.
Nothing wrong with that. What got you started doing that, Melanie?
I'm second generation. And I stunned my 12-year-old grandson the other day by sharing family history with him. I said, you know, my mother, your great-grandmother, was the first woman licensed in our county, the first woman to open a brokerage, the first woman to be president of the board of realtors. And he went, oh, and
Nice.
his mom is in the business. So it's 3 generations at this point.
Cool. Are there hopes?
My mom's deceased, but it's 3rd generation in it.
Are there hopes for the 12-year-old? Are we looking for a 4th generation here, Melanie? What are you giving the odds?
His little sister is very interested.
Gotcha. So the Vegas odds are leaning toward the sister over the brother.
Exactly.
Gotcha. I'll get with my bookie later and we'll put some money on this thing. This sounds like a very interesting. I want some of this action. Where did all this success come from for you, do you think?
Well, we've always been committed to service, which you have to be committed to good service to your clients and customers. We've always been committed to very high honesty and ethical standards. As far as the education goes, you know, I have lots of little sayings I pass on, but, you know, the only place success comes before work is in the dictionary. We all have to work.
Yeah, that's right.
I think we all look back on what we started with and where we were then and where we are now. We're like, wow, and I've got to keep working.
That's it. You know, the thing that I've been leaning into a lot recently is that, you know, we don't grow from our times on the mountaintops. We grow through our times surviving through the valley, which means if we want to see what we're really capable of, we have to put ourselves in the valley and really put ourselves in positions where we're challenging ourselves. That work is mandatory to take and figure out what you've actually got in the tank. And so that sounds like it's in keeping with what you're talking about.
Absolutely. And I think that, well, I know that this is true for me. Every piece of adversity has made you better, makes you better at what you do. So
it can crush you or make you better. Yeah, it's pretty much it.
I said this as a joke, but it's true. I was speaking at the Florida convention last week. And of course, everyone's very nervous. Interest rates are going up. Well, you know what? I was a brand new agent in the late 1970s, out of college. Interest rates were 18%. I sold real estate, Josh, because I didn't know anything. I was like, okay, this is what we have to do here, because that's all I knew. Yep. So when I see people getting really excited about 7%, I'm like, hold my beer.
Yeah, watch this. Yeah, let me show you this is done.
If you can get through that, you know you can get through the next thing. Now, what you and I know is the one thing we can guarantee everyone we know is real estate will be different every day.
Absolutely.
You no sooner get used to a market than it changes. And you're like, shoot, I had that last market figured out. I knew what to do. And now I don't know what to do anymore. I've got to figure it out. I've got to reinvent myself.
And that's where I think the history of real estate has really been the great saving grace, is to go back and look and see when economic pressures were similar. How did real estate respond? The market you're talking about, as high as interest rates got, it was a fantastic time for real estate prices. Real estate prices exploded in the 1970s and early 1980s. Rents exploded. And even though the value of money was going down, real estate proved out. I mean, that was really the hotbed test case for real estate, being that hedge against inflation. And it owned that space. It really, really did. And so
we did see some price corrections as the rates went up.
It did. But here's the thing, right? And this is the other piece of this whole thing, is the fact that one of the pressures that occur when prices go up is rents tend to go up as well. And rents going up is one of those continuous jab in the side incentives that tenant is getting to say, hey, you better buy a house, man, because these rents aren't letting up. And that's exactly what we've seen in this market today, is that as much as home prices have gone up, rents have been sitting there going right up with them and saying, hey, look, you got to figure out how to get out of this rat race, because these rents aren't letting up. If you buy that house, at least you lock that principal and interest payment in today, and you're going to be enjoying that same payment for the next 30 years while those rents keep ticking and ticking and ticking. So it's a thing.
And I always like to tell tenants, you are paying a mortgage. You're paying off the investor's mortgage.
Yep, that's right. It's a thing. So where do you think all the success came from for you, Melanie?
Hard work, being gifted with the ability to communicate well. I came home from college and said, I want to teach and write. And my mother said, get in the real estate business. Then I figured out you could teach and write in the real estate business. So I'm an educator at heart, but that, Josh, spills over. Because if we're good at real estate, we are constantly educating our buyers and sellers. We're explaining to them how the market works. We're explaining things that seem very obvious to us, but are not to them.
Yep.
Time and time again, I say to a seller at a listing, you have a theory about what you want for this house. I have a theory about what I think it'll sell for. Until I'm handing you a check because we had a closing, it's a theory.
That's right.
I can't make anybody pay a particular price for any property.
I can only do what the market will take. And I mean, this is one of the things one of the lines I love to use with people is this. You know what active properties are? These are all that is the price that everybody has looked at and nobody's been willing to pay for a property. These are all the people that are sitting there that haven't sold. If you want to see how to be unsuccessful, just price your home like an active listing, because all of them have been exposed to the entire market and nobody has said yes. And this is a key concept. It's one of the reasons I don't bring expired listings with me on a listing agreement. I don't need the expired listings if the actives are right there making the case that these won't sell at this price. The market's looked at them and said no. And so I find that pulling the noise out, and this is just between you, me, and the lamppost, right? Just talking, how we do our own particular brands. Because at the end of the day, this is one of the other things that's such a big piece of real estate for me is scripts and all this dependency on these kind of crutches to get you by the early part of your business. The problem with scripts has always been the lack of being organic in those scripts. And, recognizing a script is maybe something that gives me the general talking points, but I got to figure out how to get away from that as fast as I can. So I'm saying something that sounds like me, that when I look the person in the eyes and I say it, they know that I believe it. And that's such a piece that seems to be not talked about in our industry much. This being truly organic, knowing your stuff and going in there and showing your customer, you got me and I know my stuff, which means you don't have to bother learning my stuff. I know how to do my job, unlike 80% of the other agents that are out there.
I know. Josh, I heard a great story from one of my students. She had sellers who had overpriced and they were dragging their feet. And she said, I'd like to come over and talk to you. She walked in the door and she said, I have 2 documents with me. One is a price reduction and one is a cancellation of this listing. You figure out which one you want to sign. Yeah. And she said, we're not going anywhere at this price. And all we're doing is getting frustrated with each other. And you're mad at me because your house didn't sell, but I'm not the one who's going to buy your house.
Sure. If I could get out in front of that one for you, Melanie, I like to handle that one. I'm a big believer, and I don't know if this is at all helpful or in line with what you teach, but I mean, we both teach. So I'll throw this out there and see your take on it. I think one of the mistakes that we make in real estate is not anticipating the negotiations that are coming our way in advance. So like I know before I ever walk into the house that the price that listing is going to go up at is going to be an area of negotiation. And so from the second I walk in the house, one of the things I like to teach in negotiation when I do teach it is to bring a bazooka to a knife fight. If I know there's going to be a fight, I want to be overarmed and over-prepared for it because I'm the professional. I should know how to do this, for God's sake, right? And so when I go in, I'm constantly painting them into a corner on price by talking about, the active listings as being available but unsold. There's a whole bunch of different techniques throughout the entire thing that I'm using to kind of push the seller into this location that if they ask me to take that at a price higher than what the market will bear, they know it. Like they know at this point, like, look, Josh, you've made, like, I get it. I know you're right, but we still want to try this price. And this is kind of the place where I think I tweak it a little bit, which is I say, look, I don't want this listing. I want every real estate transaction they're ever going to do, which means the place that I go to with this is to say something along the lines of, look, I get what you're saying. I'm showing you right here, the market will support 365. You want to try 390. All right. And here's the thing. I've already shown you and I explained to you that if we try a higher price and come down, statistically, we're going to want it selling for less than if we started at the right price. All the cookie cutter stuff. But here's the big problem, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. If I take this at this higher price, there's a very good chance you're going to misunderstand that as me saying to you, I can get you that price. Because here's the thing, right? Here's the big issue. I know if I get you, if you listen to me, we listed at 365, I bring you 365 tomorrow. You're gonna be like, you see, I knew it. We should have listed for 390, which means I would have done my job and you're pissed. I can't have that happen. That's not what I'm about. So look, I'll try the price with you if you want, as long as there's a clear understanding, because there's one thing I never want to do. I never want you for a second to feel like I ever told you I was going to do something that I didn't do. So as long as we're clear, I will fight like hell to get you that price, that 390, because I make more money if you do. But I'm not telling you I can do it. As long as we're okay with that, because look, if it can be sold, nobody will sell this house for a nickel more than me. But doing miracles, water in the wine, walking on water, those I can't do, right? If it's doable, I'll do it. But understand, I will be your huckleberry. We will try it together. But understand, I'm also hurting your negotiating position by losing some of our best time on market. So we need to take and minimize this, right? And so that's kind of the place that I like to approach it, because for me, those extra points right there of making that integrity proposition is something that's missing from most agents' presentations.
So I'm going to tell you one of the things I do, and you're free to use if you don't already.
Oh, by all means.
I look people in the eye and I say, Josh, what is your plan B? And everyone looks at you and says, what? And you say, look, every seller I know has the exact same plan A. I'm going to sell my house at my price in my time frame. What's your plan B? Because if the market is unwilling to accept the price you think you want, you don't have a lot of choices.
Yeah.
Keep it, reduce it, keep it and rent it. Yep. Might not be a good outcome that way, but you don't have a lot of choices.
Sure.
And, that question I find really gets to motivation, because every so often, as you well know, we get people who come in pairs often. And one of them says, I don't have to sell my house. And you're like, okay, and maybe I don't have to list your house, because if you've got one partner who really doesn't want to sell, but they're going to go along with it for the sake of domestic tranquility, shall we say?
They're going to be passive aggressive the whole way.
Yeah. I'm not going to come down one penny. I know what my house is worth. You know what? That might be a listing we walk away from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is one of those critical junctures. The book that I just finished writing is a book called Close for Life. And it's all about how to not chase paychecks, but how to actually build a business, right? And you build a business by having customers that come back to you over and over and over again. So in my real estate business, I haven't spent a nickel on advertising in more than 10 years, and I still outsell an office of about 500 agents. This is probably going to be the first year, because I'm speaking so much that I don't hit that threshold where I'm not the top producer of that office for the first time in a very long time. I'm on the road probably 200 days a year at this point. So it's very hard to keep up that kind of volume. But I think that getting away from spending a nickel on bringing in business is where any business owner wants to be, where you have a loyal group of people that they would never do business with you. In fact, if anybody needs anybody, they say, oh, real estate, I got a guy, you got to go talk to my guy, right? So one of the questions I ask agents in my classes, I do a preamble in most of my classes. I say, why is everybody not saying that about you? What is the thing you're doing in your business that's not making everybody say, real estate? No, you got to talk to Melanie. I got a guy. You got to talk to Melanie. I'll get Melanie on the phone. No, I will talk. You say my name. She'll take it. Like, what's the thing, right? Because as a CEO of your real estate business, that should be question number one, right? I mean, what the heck are we in business to do if it's not to take and build loyal customers that every real estate deal they do, they only do it with one person. Otherwise, if I close with them, I got to go replace them now. I got to go take and advertise to replace this person to maintain my sales volume. And it's not typically how we talk about doing real estate. And so I actually tend to have a little bit more of an appetite for taking a listing that I don't think will sell, as long as it gives me an opportunity to build up in them. Look, Josh, you know what? You were right the whole way. We should have listened to you. Whatever. If I can build that, like they're never going any place but me, if that's the end goal of my business, then you know what? Sitting there and wasting a bit of effort that's not advertising dollars. Now, maybe it's a little bit of sweat equity on my part to call them and follow up with them and do all the things that I can do. It's part of the business model. And that's one of the things that I think is important. And I want your take on this. Agents have to figure out what their business is going to be about. You know, what is the product that they bring? I like to say Timex or Rolex. What do you think about that, Melanie? Does it make sense to you?
Well, okay. One of the things I like to say to students in classes, and I might be going down a rabbit hole for you, and if I am, I apologize in advance, but think about how people pick realtors. Oh, there's a sign. It's got that person's picture and name on it. I'll call them.
Yep.
And so what I say to people in class, and I actually say this to consumers as well, but I really say to agents, you all have people. You don't drive down the street and say, oh, I need my hair done. There's a hair salon. I'll pull in and see if they can do my hair.
You got a guy.
When your car's making a funny noise, you don't say, I think I'll drive down the street and who fixes
see
cars?
Who's next.
You have a person. You have a dentist, you have a doctor, you have a hairdresser, you have whatever you have in your life. And you picked that person because they're good.
Yep.
And as a matter of fact, it's funny, Josh, one of the things that really brought this home for me was I had longtime close personal friends, and I sold their house and they moved about 2.5 hours away. And the wife said, oh my gosh, she said, we have to find all new people. And I said, people? And she said, hairdresser, car mechanic, doctor, dentist. We got to find all those people because we had all those people.
Yep.
We don't know who to trust. We don't know who's good. So if you can, as an agent, make the point to a consumer of, number one, in my humble opinion, unless it's my picture or yours, do not call the person on the sign. They already have a client. They're representing the seller.
Mm-hmm.
You want an agent who's going to represent you.
Sure.
And that should be an agent you represent and you know their family. I had one lovely time when someone said to me, oh, but you're the family realtor. That's a great thing to be.
That is. You know, like I'm originally from New York, and New York, there's a lot of cultures that are a lot about reputation. You know, like they say you're a stand-up guy. That means you're righteous. That means you do what you say you're going to do. Like, oh, that guy, he's a stand-up guy. You go work with him. He'll take care of you. And, you know, being that place, in order to be that, it takes integrity. It takes running your business a certain way with everything you do. And most agents, Melanie, if I had to pick the biggest issue in real estate right now, most agents are running around as the employees of their real estate business without ever realizing they're also the CEO of that business. They've got to figure out what the standards of that company that they run are. What are the hills? Because look, I got news for you. If you never answer your phone like most agents don't, nobody's going to be standing there with a baseball bat to smack you over the head and say, hey, why aren't you answering the phone? You're the boss. Is your standard for your company? Hey, we're the kind of company we answer my phone. And when you say that, do you do it? And what are the exceptions? What are the times that you give yourself a pass for that? Because at the end of the day, your standards are going to dictate the quality of product that you bring to market. And this is an industry that we're in, and it crushes my soul, where honestly, quality is very much an afterthought for most people. And it sucks.
And customer service. And Josh, from my vantage point, because I think I've been doing this longer than you have, I've seen so many people burst on the scene, do wonderfully well, and then all of a sudden they get really self-assured and they don't think they have to do the stuff they used to do. And they quit getting back to people promptly, and they quit providing stellar customer service, and they start acting more like they don't care.
Absolutely.
And then it all dries up and goes away. Customer service in this country has gotten so bad that when you provide it, people are stunned.
Shocked.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And whether it's our industry or another one, but I love to give this example of, suppose you need your vehicle fixed. So you go to wherever you're going to get it fixed and you say, hey, look, I have to have it by 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. I'm showing property. And they say, fine, no problem. You get your friend to take you over there. It's 12:30. Your car's sitting where you parked it. You go in and you say, is my car done? Oh, no, we couldn't get to it. But I have showings at 1. Now, they can solve that problem. It's not hard. Oh, my gosh, Mr. Cadillac, we're so sorry. Here's a loaner car.
Yep.
Just take the keys, do whatever you need to do. Our problem. I'm so sorry.
Our fault.
Instead,
Yep.
they just kind of shrug their shoulders like, well, it's not our problem anymore.
Sucks to
It
be
is
you.
their problem because you had an expectation they didn't meet. And of course, again, in our business, I'm sure you do this as well. You have to be clear about the expectations you can meet and those you cannot meet.
Sure.
We're not going to sit at any listing appointment and promise someone we're going to get them the price they want.
Nope.
Unless we're going to write the check.
Nope. Absolutely. No, I mean, I think that the place to be when it comes to that is to understand, have thought through what it is that you bring to the table and how you're going to take and use that to make a good situation for your customer, right? What the value is. So like, and one of the best things, Melanie, and I've been doing this a little while. I've been in business since I was 9 years old, started working for my dad. He took me out of school, hired a teacher to teach me in the afternoons. And I worked from 6 in the morning till 1:30.
Doing what?
Originally was working in a school cafeteria. And then in the summer times, we'd be working outdoors. I dug ditches. I've done just about everything. If it needed doing, my father was a big believer in hard work, right? And one of the best things that I ever did was, as I was writing this most recent book, was to actually sit down and write what my standards are for business and for life. What are it? Like I answer my phone, I show up, I do what I like, those kind of things. And just kind of, I thought I had like a handful, and the list kept getting longer and longer. Such just a great exercise in figuring out what these hills that I would die on are, to take and make sure that my business had, that I had the kind of business I was proud to run. And so it's not an exercise that we talk to agents. We spend so much time on sales techniques with agents, so much time on lead sourcing. I mean, I was just at the convention that you were, Florida Realtors. If you counted the number of classes that were there, not to say anything bad about it, this is where the appetite is. The number of classes on marketing outnumbered all the other types of classes, hands down. Classes on actually being an expert in the market, couldn't find one of those. But a million classes, like actually being good at what you do. And so I think that's part of the breakdown. People solve problems in real estate by just more lead sourcing. Let me just go replace customers with more customers until I find some that stick. And I think that's an unhealthy method of doing real estate. That's become
You're
the thing.
getting up and inventing the wheel every day. But back to problem solving. I am very often known to say to agents, most of our work gets done after we get the contract.
Yep.
It's contract to closing. Oh, the appraisal is not contract price. We've got a problem. Oh, the home inspector found out that the termites were not killed by the radon.
Yep.
So we've got 2 problems. That's where we earn our money. And that's where a lot of agents throw up their hands and are like, I don't know what to do here. We're problem solvers. That is really what we do.
That's it. We fix what breaks. And you want to take and even do one better, let your customer know what the problems can be before the problems ever happen. So when they do happen, they know they're with somebody who's seen that kind of brain damage before, and you've already told them what you're going to do about it if it's an issue. That lets the customer actually enjoy the experience of buying the home, as opposed to thinking every other day that they're going to lose the house or it's not going to work. You got to cool them out, folks, by knowing what goes on. So Melanie, I love this stuff. Let me ask you this. Let's talk about the market for just a second. What do you see as the opportunity in the market today?
Well, I think there's an opportunity for people who are willing to look past the interest rates. Who can I afford this payment? I actually just finished a listing appointment. It's going to be a low priced home, but I'm in a rural market. And they said, are you concerned about the rates? And I said, let me do the math. So I did it. I said, if we have a first time buyer, they go FHA, put 3.5% down, they mortgage this amount, current rates, here's their payment. they can't rent anything decent for that.
Yep.
That's the advantage. Now, I said, are some price ranges going to hurt? Probably, because and I know we've got people out there with golden handcuffs, by which I mean they are sitting with a mortgage of 2.5.
Yep.
And they might be thinking about, do I want a bigger house or do I want to downsize? But then they're thinking, oh man, if I have to give up 2.5 and borrow money. And Wall Street Journal had an article today that the jumbo loans, where they used to give preferential rates to jumbo mortgages, a lot of the banks are no longer doing that.
Yeah, it does. It's not a surprise. It really isn't, just because of the nature of where the market is today. But I mean, good news is, what's his name? Warren Buffett just bought into a bunch of home builders because he likes the long-term outlook for home building, and so do I as a general contractor. I know that we're only building about 1.4 million homes, and we have about over 2 million households being formed every year. That shortfall is long lasting, and the undersupply remains. So single family homes going down in value when they're so scarce really doesn't seem like it can be the case, which means the outlook for future appreciation seems strong.
Well, Buffett's a really smart guy, and I caught the tail end of your presentation in Florida.
Oh,
I was very interested in knowing that the energy standards are creating the problem of mold. Holy cow.
Yep. It's a thing in Florida.
And so, my entire career, Josh, I have viewed unintended consequences. Okay. So we're going to do this great thing because this is going to solve this problem. And then there's the unintended consequences.
Yep.
And the one that comes to my mind, late 90s, early 2000s, let's get more people to be homeowners. So we're going to do no doc loans and low doc loans and stated income loans. And what could possibly go wrong? Well, you could put people in houses who can't afford to pay the payments, and you can ruin their lives with bankruptcy.
And they did.
And they did.
And then they
that's not right.
And they got bailed out and left us holding the consequences. It's a true thing.
Yeah.
Melanie, I know we're tight on time, so I got to take in. I want to give you a little bit of a lightning round. This is probably the hardest question in this little lightning round here. What one piece of advice would you give somebody listening to this right now?
Never stop learning.
Love it. Great piece of advice. If you could pick a book or a movie that you could recommend, what would be a book or movie that you would think would be meaningful or helpful to someone?
Oh my goodness, Josh, I am such a voracious reader. That's like asking me to pick my favorite grandchild.
I know. I'm the same way. Somebody dropped that on a podcast the other day. They're like, pick 5.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I had to think about that. But boy, favorite movie. Everyone should watch It's a Wonderful Life every Christmas.
It's a great film. It is a great film, and very much in keeping with that idea of running a great business and as being part of a great life. So much more. I'd love to talk to you about that because that's such a big piece of what I've been working on and thinking about recently. I'd love to get your take on it. But what do you do, Melanie? What do you do to unwind?
I garden. I read. I walk my dog. I spend time with my grandkids. I am widowed, but 3 of my 5 grandchildren live very close, so I get to see them a lot.
That's nice. That's very nice. Melanie, if folks want to take and learn more from you, hear more about you, whatever, where can people find you?
I have a Facebook page, Melanie J. McLane, real estate educator, and I actually do real estate minutes twice a week there. We're on a variety of topics. And of course, if they want to book me, they go through Betts Works Real Estate Speakers.
Lisa is awesome.
I think you know that lady.
I know and love Lisa. She's a rock star.
She is the best.
With hands down, not even a question. One of the hardest working people in real estate.
She is. Well, you were so kind to give me this opportunity.
Oh, Melanie, it was 100% our honor and privilege to have you on here. Only regret that the time constraint exists, because maybe we'll have to have you on another time so we can talk about some more stuff.
I will do that.
I feel like we could talk some more shop for a little while here.
Yeah.
Mel, thank you so much for coming on and for spending time with us. It was great.
Have a great day. I'll see you.
See you.